There you go.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Sorry for the rocky start. I guess we can call to order our meeting of the MSRAC at 9:07 a.m. So the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the April 9th, 2020 special meeting.
I'll move.
So Bernie moves. Is there a second?
Joanne. I'll do that. Anybody hear me? It's Joanne.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you, Joanne.
Okay.
So Bernie made a motion and Joanne seconded. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Guess the minutes are approved. Item 3, correspondence. We don't have any, so we'll move on to item 4, citizens' comments. Are there any citizens on the participating who'd like to speak?
That's your cue, Ken, if you have anything to say, I think.
Oh, okay. I'm new to this part of it. Other than, I mean, it's going to be an agenda item, so I found that very interesting. The response back from the attorney. Hopefully we can get some better clarifications with that.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, I did put that on the bar agenda. I probably should have kept it on the MSRAC with the overlap. It's but that'll be on the agenda for
Sure.
the bar meeting. We can discuss it then. It is interesting. So item 5, committee business, 630 Riverside Drive.
No.
Okay, then item 6 is member comments. Before we move on to the bar agenda, any member comments? Okay, I guess hearing none, we'll adjourn the MSRAC meeting at 9:09, and we will open up the bar grant meeting at 9:09.
I'm Norma and I'm on the phone.
There's Norma.
Welcome,
Hi.
Norma.
Thank you.
Norma, what are the last 4 digits of your number so I can rename you?
2969.
2969. Okay, I will name you.
Thank you.
Okay, and this one was Joanne, I think.
Can I ask a question? Can anybody just sign in or get into a meeting anonymously, or does they have to have a code, right?
Well, it's a public meeting, so yeah, if they go into the agenda and open the link and use the meeting ID, they can come in. They get a screen that asks them to choose a screen name.
I see. Okay.
So they have to enter something, but there's nothing to verify whether that's a real name.
Well, no, but my point is, so there's nobody else, there's no citizens here that we know of, right? Because you don't see a name?
Well, can, but yes, no uninvolved citizens have dialed in.
Well, I see Ken on the screen, so that you have to identify yourself when you sign on. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and actually that's how I got in, because I had the wrong link embedded in the version of the agenda that I had on my computer. I went straight to the town's website and came in publicly through the agenda there.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, there could be citizens at this meeting right now, but we don't know it. But apparently we would know it. So, all right.
Well, I have the participants window open on the side as well. So anytime somebody comes in, no matter how they're identified, whether it's just with a phone number or a screen name, I can see a new person come in. Any one of you can open that. Well, if you're on a
Yes,
computer.
I have it open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely find it helpful because when some people are on video and some people are on a phone, that if you can view the list of participants, then you know that you can speak to that person even if you can't see them.
Okay.
Okay, so
Anyway.
I guess we should move on to approval of minutes of the April 8th, 2020 special meeting for the bar grant. That was a pretty important meeting. We got some long minutes. Go ahead.
Joanne, well, I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was that
Is that
Charlene?
Charlene?
Charlene, yep, sorry.
Any further discussion on the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. There's no other correspondence other than what we'll be discussing in committee business. Citizens' comments?
Ken?
That's me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Personally, as a selectman, I have no problem with you speaking under committee business.
Okay. They probably make it easier that way.
Yeah, yes, I think that, like I said, you're on the board of selectmen. It's not just an ordinary citizen. You have insider knowledge.
I did at one time anyway.
So I guess, we'll move on to committee business. Item A is the Lot SIP Route 12 sidewalk project, Rawson Ave to Route 200. Exciting things happened over the month with that project, as I think you guys are all aware since we sent out an email update, but the Board of Selectmen did vote to award the contract to Freeman Companies. They did come in within our budget at $75,000 without any substantial loss in the scope of work. So, and we just got an email yesterday saying that they're going to start the survey tomorrow on site.
Great.
All right.
Yep.
And Tier, maybe you can update everybody on the NECOG lot SIP application status.
Yeah, Amy and I tag teamed NECOG a little bit, so we finally got an answer back. Jim did send the application over to Phil Chack for signature, which was one of the sort of last requirements before it got submitted on to DOT. That was confirmed as done, and it has been confirmed that it's been sent over to DOT. And just, you know, as a reminder, they keep it for review, presumably in a stack of other things, and it's not a quick turnaround on their approval. I think 6 to 8 months is the estimate that Jim Larkin gave us, and then what they provide is a letter of commitment to fund, and the funds are released at whatever time the program funds have been replenished, you know, in order. So we don't get a lot of definites out of that. The letter to confirm, to commit will be a definite, but there's no definite time frames attached to anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally what I'll do is put a note on my calendar like 4 months out from now to try to, you know, send out some inquiries if we remind them once a month that we're still interested in the status, because we don't even know if the program is going to be funded. So, you know, we need to try to stay involved with NECON, I feel, and see what's going on and see whether they're going to keep funding these projects or what.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we'll have to circle back periodically, it's always wise to remind people that you're there.
I mean, my hope is that they will continue to fund all these projects as like a, you know, an economic stimulus thing. If you have a shovel-ready project and they're trying to keep people working, you know, maybe hopefully it'll look good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unknowns right now, but we've done everything within our power for the moment, and it's just a circle back in a couple months and see how things are, or if we get any notification that some programs have been defunded, temporarily suspended, at least we would know.
Right.
But as of now, everything looks favorable, at least theoretically.
Great. Does anybody else have anything else to add or any questions on the lot tip sidewalk grant project? Okay, then we can move on to item B, Blaine Road intersection design update.
Well, I submitted for a disbursement from the bar grant for Provost and Rivero's first invoice, which I think was 75% of the total, something like that. So they will be paid for the work they've billed us for, and David Held had sent an email that once we gave him the green light, he'd send it over to Condot, but that is the last information I have from it. So that's probably a week and a half old.
Okay. That's good. I mean, I know from personal experience, once he submits it to DOT, there's nothing's going to happen for at least 2 weeks to a month. So if he submitted it to DOT, great.
Yeah, so before the next meeting, when it comes up as on the agenda, I'll use that as a prompt to follow up with David Held.
Perfect. Anybody have anything else on that? Then let's move on to committee business. Item C, John Gumpert, liaison. Amy did, I guess John Gumpert, at the end of our meeting last month, we found out that John had put in like a request for some tax relief for the project. And I think that was forwarded on to the town attorney to see if what he was seeking, is possible under the statutes. And I did forward everybody a copy of that memo. It's kind of complicated. Anybody have any thoughts, comments?
Did John Gumpert get a copy of it yet?
I don't know.
My reaction was send it to him and let him digest it. And see
Well, I
what his
talked to
reaction
Amy about
was.
it. I talked to Amy about it yesterday, and what she told me was, in addition to those comments that were provided by Slater's colleague, I think his last name was Collins, she had asked them to draw up some kind of counter proposal, essentially, that would fit the statutes, that would get him as close to what he was looking for as possible. So I imagine that is what she would send back to him, possibly with the attorney's memo attached as well. That I don't know.
Right. I think as long as the memo is attached so he understands where that counter proposal came from, I think that's fine.
Yeah. I also talked to her yesterday because as I read it, the first time I read it, I just skimmed it and I thought it was more favorable than it actually was in terms of agreeing with the proposal. When I looked at it again, I was looking at some of the statutory language around the rehabilitation district or whatever it was and some other stuff, and it did prompt me, because I knew she was getting back in touch with Slater, to have her add some questions for him. One is, since we are currently in the final stages of that draft rewrite, if there is any language that can be added to that downtown mill district to try to match it to the statutory requirements to create the rehabilitation district, now would be the time to see if that's workable. Another thing was some of the statutory language in that memo was very similar to stuff around blight ordinances. So again, if the town were to adopt a blight ordinance, does that give them leverage to make some of these adjustments? Because I have a draft of that as well, that I had presented to the ordinance committee a few weeks ago. Joanne, did you read that after I sent that over?
At the time when you sent it, I got a deluge of emails. I got to go back in and redo that. I'm sorry, I have not.
No, I was just curious. Anyway, so those were two things I sort of added into the conversation between her and Slater. So I'm curious to see what he comes back with on that.
That sounds like some good ideas, Tara. Ken, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was reading it and I kind of had an idea that certain parts of the forgiveness would be difficult. And I just read it very quickly late yesterday. I'm still wondering if we can do something with the taxes as the principal as a whole, because we can't forgive interest and the penalties. That maybe we can do something with the principal assessment of the town going back or moving forward from today forward to try and get him closer to what he's looking for to make this project happen. So hopefully Amy has asked the attorney to do something along what we can do. I would have liked to have seen the letter from, John Gumpert, to see what he was requesting and to match it up with this here. But the Board of Selectmen did not see that. Just Amy has so far.
I thought at the end of last month's meeting, she gave us a copy when people requested.
Janet, I think she may have given that just to you and to me. Possibly. I have it in an e-file back at the office when I forgot that was what Ken had asked me about that earlier in the week, and I had forgotten that piece, so I had just forwarded again the attorney memo. But Ken, I'll remember to get that over to you on Monday.
Yeah, if you could, because I know with some of the stuff that John had talked about in the past, knowing exactly what he's looking for, exactly now. And probably if the board itself had known, we may have been able to give Amy some input on some of the questions, to ask Slater's colleague there to see what we can do to be as creative within the statutes as possible.
Yeah, the main contentions between what has been proposed and at least what the memo response says mostly have to do with the time period he's asking for relief. There doesn't seem to be any statutory allowance to give him, some of them can combine for up to 17, but yeah, nothing individually is longer than 10 years. So the maximum he's looking at, I think, is 17. And then he was talking about stuff in discrete phases that the implication to me from reading the memo weren't particularly meaningful. In terms of how the statutes would apply, but
Well, there's some stuff that the town is already obligated to do through the assessor's office for the construction phases where that 7 years comes in, where they don't pay anything on the construction aspects. It's deferred over. So, but I'm looking forward to see what Slater comes back with, because, this is all good news that we're moving forward with this project and doing it in record time compared to just the short, barely 3 years ago that we got this thing going. So we're doing great compared to, what it has taken Putnam to move forward, over a dozen years. And, we're moving along very well. So we don't want to stymie that, especially, with the COVID stuff going on, and just if anybody's been watching the budget, it has been very, very difficult to put a budget out there that meets the town's needs and provides as much relief to the public, but yet doesn't stymie the town moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to say that certainly everybody on this committee and everybody who's directly involved wants to find the levers. Right, so it's just a matter of what the levers end up actually being.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't aware that it wasn't discussed at a whole Board of Selectmen's meeting, and I don't know if the pieces of the puzzle are moving too fast, or I don't know, there's some missing gaps, but it does seem like it should be on,
Well, I mean, even something of this, depending on when it had been presented, the information could have just gone out to the board and we could have had an executive session if that would have been needed, depending on, the situation. But now that this is public information, obviously we can have a discussion at a Board of Selectmen's meeting without a problem.
Yeah, well, I specifically asked whether it was appropriate to have the MSRAC bar committee members review this. Amy felt that it wasn't confidential, so that's why I attached it.
Yeah, no, it's great. This is still, again, it's a positive sign in the process that John is looking at, which means he's moving ahead and things are still lining up, which is great for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm glad it is being looked over by the town attorneys and trying to, like you said, come up with a compromise that will work in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other discussion on the John Gumpert item? Which actually I do realize in future meetings, maybe this item I should put under the MSRAC, because it's really not funded by the bar, and the bar grant will be done in another couple years and the MSRAC will go on. So in the future, I'll move this over. Okay, then let's do other committee business, item 5D. Is there any other items, like maybe the wayfinding I could have put in there? Or?
Sure, there's always more. The wayfinding, we have a call, Guskowski, Kelsey, me, Renee is on that. I think Brian Yacino, I can't remember who else is on it, but it's a sort of a smaller group from those, from EDC and branding, to go over a presentation draft that Kelsey said is sent over to do a public Zoom engagement meeting. Renee and I both had some critiques of the presentation, some of which came about because when we went to all virtual, some conversations that had been started between our CME consultants and our National Park Service consultants on how to dovetail those two projects together kind of took on a life of their own. And it became very trails heavy, which, in a draft is fine, it can be addressed, but the flow wasn't as crisp as it could have been. We're looking probably at a public Zoom presentation sometime in early to mid-June, I would say, to get that element taken care of before whatever the next step. And I'd have to look at the contract and the phases to tell you what the next phase was after that. But, I mean, aside from a little delay in the implementation because of everybody being isolated, it's more or less chugging along. Renee, did you want to pop in anything on that?
I think you covered it.
Well, all right. I got this morning I got a Google Doc folder back from our Yukon student group with their final presentation for the pop-up village, which is tangential to the work on the bar grant, but did have a relationship in that we included in Freeman's contract or in the RFP that they would have meetings, one meeting with the student team. Student team's done now, so Freeman needs to know that obligation is removed from them. But we do have a very brief but, tidy slide presentation and a final report from them. I haven't read the report. I did look at the slide presentation. It's, more or less what it has been, but they include some nice renderings that we can pass on to Dave Eddy to build the first couple when we're ready. And, so it is in the bar grant area as well, so it definitely ties into the mission of this committee.
Great.
Mhm.
And as far as removing the meeting, we can just ask them to attend a different meeting than the one with the Yukon students. because it was a lump sum contract, so.
That's true. That's true. And we otherwise took out the obligation to go to any meetings, right?
Correct. Well, I think
Right,
they're going to
so-
come to 3 meetings with us, but the obligation to go to permitting meetings like wetlands or P&Z was taken out.
Right. Yeah, night meetings, I think, was how it was ended up being phrased, but.
Right.
Yeah, so that's something that can be discussed with Freeman in terms of, you know, you don't have to do this. Could you do this instead? kind
Right.
of thing.
They could potentially, come to, hopefully if we're meeting face to face, maybe they can come to one of our meetings and show us their plans in person.
That would be lovely. Anything else I'm missing from any of our related but outside projects, Renee?
Well, the garden is moving forward. My shoulders can attest to that. Right, Joanne?
Yes.
Yeah, Dino Galasso is supposed to be filling those rain barrels today, either right before or I think right after the St. Joseph's Teachers Parade. So that'll be done today. That thing is ready to be planted if anybody wants to volunteer to plant. Oh, related to that, I did start a grant application for the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. I have a due date of the 3rd of June. So this is definitely related, at least thematically, to the work of this committee. The grant is the Community Food Projects grant program. They have a planning subset of that grant, and I am trying to cobble together a group of in-kind consultants to help me put together a comprehensive plan for the whole property. So that's the community garden, which obviously is already installed, but we still need to develop some programming around it. The rehab of the building, the conversion of the building to the small business center with the apartment unit for the site manager. And then what I'm tacking on to that is a plan to potentially develop those adjacent 14 town-owned acres into a public permaculture food forest park. So I have probably I have a ballpark estimate of about 10 grand for a consultant, but it's a one-to-one match grant. So I'm trying to put together in-kind partners. So I've got Connecticut RC&D, Connecticut Farm Bureau. Guskowski said he'd throw in some in-kind hours. Eastern Connecticut Conservation District. If I can, because we have no dollars to put into it. So if I can come up with 10 grand in-kind match before the deadline to submit that, I think we've got a good proposal. And that, again, would be in that sort of revitalization mission for the bar grant and the downtown loop.
I just want to say that I love that idea of that food forest. That is a perfect use for those acres. I don't know who on the committee has walked that, but there's some beautiful land. I think it's just a perfect use. It would be fitting for that area. So good work, Tara.
And interestingly, Charlie, who does come up with gems every once in a while, sent that link about that that not-for-profit trying to do seeding of blight-resistant chestnuts. So
Yes.
I'm going to contact them and see if they, in fact, can also join as an in-kind partner to help develop that piece of it.
Where's that
I think,
piece of land again, Sarah?
What's that, Joanne?
Where is that piece of land again that you're talking about, the 14 acres?
So it's town-owned land that runs along that side of the French River behind all those properties. It's about 14 total acres. A great deal of it is obviously wetland and can't be interfered with, but that's like down in a gully. And then there's there's that ridge, like back where we were pulling those chimney flues out of.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so in behind there, and it goes pretty much the whole length of that riverbank from, where it hits Main Street to up to the library, I think.
Yep,
Okay.
it does. Very cool piece of property.
Went that far.
We
Who
should
was
go
that
on
trying to talk?
someday.
It was me, probably me. I just didn't realize it went that far up. I thought it was just
No,
behind the
I'm
house.
looking at the map geo right now, and it does not go as far as the Walker Street. It's beyond, it's just behind about 8 properties on Main Street is all.
Okay, well, regardless, it's still a nice stretch. I thought it went further. It's a hard parcel to pull up on the parcel map because it has no address of any kind, like
Right.
not even a 0 street. So you it's almost like, you know, looking at black holes on star maps. It's defined by the things around it more than itself, but it is there.
And the 65 Main is I think maybe one of 2 entrances to that property. So it's a perfect fit with that project.
Yeah. So, you know, fingers crossed that will be an appealing project for NIFA. It's a pretty low ask. I mean, the whole grant program has something like $4.8 million in it. Most of them are for implementation projects, which go up to $400,000 for up to 4 years. I would love to have been able to apply for that, but that's also a 1-to-1 match. So, you know, the planning piece, if I can get a good permaculture consultant, and there are a few in Connecticut and Western Mass with, you know, national and international reputations, I figure at least the plan both helps us phase it for when we can, you know, carve some funds out here and there, and assist in further grant applications down the line. Everybody loves a good plan.
Great.
You want to talk about NIPS, Renee? Just for fun, just because we're here?
Yeah, so you must have, most of you, well, Joanne was involved, noticed that we nearly tripled what we were intending to collect for the whole 6 or 8 month period in 1 month's time. So Tira's been knocking on, well, shaking the trees, so to speak, to add to the pool of money. We started with 1,000 from EDC, if you recall.
Yep.
And then so by Saturday, we had 3,500 that we've either redirected. Lost Green Valley allowed us to redirect the 8th grade cleanup. That wasn't going to happen. That the funds for that were able to, Leslie from Rec took care of that, and that got switched over. We did just pick up a check yesterday for 1,000 from Neil Patel from Thompson Liquors.
Wow.
So we're
Great.
somewhere left with about $1,600. I know Tira has sent out a couple of larger
Yeah.
requests to some area banks. So that's plugging along. We're still taking that month to month. Most of us anticipate we are not going to do the whole length of the program just because of the dollar amount. And we really feel we've proved our point. Almost 30,000 NIPS collected in 1 month in the town of Thompson.
Oh my God.
Really
The
proves
exact
point,
number was
but
28,395. And Renee, Joanne, Leslie, my husband, a couple of other volunteers, and I counted every single one last Saturday.
That's
How
incredible.
many,
Yeah.
I think the point needs to be made as well, in terms of making a point, that the bulk of that will have accumulated since last April's townwide cleanup. So that's not
Yeah.
5 years worth of 10 years worth of accumulation. That's basically a year's worth of accumulation.
yeah, possibly.
Well, I'll tell you what will be very interesting to me is to see what we get in the second month.
yeah.
Right.
yes.
How many of these things land on the roads in the course of a month? Because as you know, as I've said, describing the program, you know, we can't address the pre-existing condition that causes them to land on the roads, right? Which is you're drinking and driving, you don't want to be caught with an open container, so you throw it out there. We can't do anything about that. That is beyond our power to control. But the environmental impact is something that can be captured as data to, support the bottle bill legislation, or, perhaps even to support a bill to ban nip sales. I think there's some places that have done it. But Maine has a deposit on nips. So, that is the specific legislation that we're looking to support. We got a nice, go ahead.
It's either 10 or 15 cents that Maine is collecting.
No, it's 5. There were a couple of nips that actually had the Maine deposit amount on them. I think,
Yeah,
but there is
10 cents.
Yeah,
Mrs. Barrett?
Michigan or Minnesota also has, and they have a higher one, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, somebody's got 10 or 15 cents on them, and I think it's one of the upper Midwest states. So, that's good data.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
The other
Kira,
thing
how
I
many,
did. Go ahead, Joanne.
how many, I know all the bags that we had, how many pickup truck did that fill? 1 or 2 beds of your pickup truck?
Chris did 3 trips, but he's got a small bed. Leslie brought them all over in the box truck. They're in the shed at 65 right now, which has a lot more room than the box truck. We can certainly...
Just so that people can picture in their head how many 30,000 bottles are, it certainly fills up an 8-foot bed pickup truck, overflowing.
It was 39-gallon bags.
Oh, you had 30 bags. Okay.
We had 30 39-gallon bags full.
Gotcha. All right.
Crazy.
Just
There's more
FYI.
coming.
Oh, go ahead, Norma.
There's more coming. Lots more coming. People haven't returned theirs yet.
Well, that's a good problem to have, but it just means, more fundraising work for me. So if anybody does know any potential donors, and at this point what I'm mostly looking for is private companies who are not currently suffering extreme effects from the downturn, and there are a few industries where that's the case. Our donation amounts have been between $250 and $1,000 so far. I did put a $3,000 request into Bank Hometowns Charitable Foundation. She returned my call, and they're certainly going to consider it. Whether they give us the full 3 or not, I don't know, but I'm sure they'll give us something. And then I've, got some more trees to shake. So if anybody knows anybody with deep pockets, send them my way.
Tara, I have not heard back from my broker yet, so I have heard nothing from him.
Okay. All righty.
So, do we have any other package stores in town that we could approach? I mean, that's a good thing for a package store to contribute to. Besides,
I don't know.
Well, Patel is running 2, isn't he?
Yes.
Patel runs 2, and you've got 1 up on Woodstock Ave.
Oh, I forget about that one.
Yep.
Was
Yeah,
You know who owns that?
That's Scott. Does Scott Parker still own that?
Parker.
Scott Parker?
Yes, I think that's his name.
Yeah, well, he used to own it when it was in the Village Plaza, and then he moved it up the street a little bit. But yeah, we forget that that's Thompson right there on the Woodstock line.
That would be a good ask.
If somebody can shoot me contact information or just information about him so I can look him up, that would be good. TLGV has a board member who owns Marty's Discount Liquors in Dudley or something, and TLGV is already a sponsor, but Lois Bruno is going to talk to him to see if she can gauge some interest from him, in which case, I'll pursue there as well.
Yeah, he can be very generous.
Oh, you know him?
Yes.
Well, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, he funds a lot of conservation land in Dudley and has donated some of his own property. And I used to be on the board of the last Green Valley with him, so I know he's generous.
Okay, cool. Well, I will loop back around to Lois to see if we can make that connection as well. If it's the same kind of quantity from month to month, we're looking at needing $2,500 to $3,000 a month for each month we want to continue. I don't think we're going to get $28,000 in the next month. That just seems not possible, right. But who knows? Maybe people do drink that much in a month and throw them out their windows. But I think I think we certainly should not be comfortable with anything less than, $1,500 a month coming in to continue to support.
Yeah, we also might have a substantial collector like we did last Saturday who had nearly 10,000 bottles. Maybe there's somebody out there still collecting.
Yeah. Well, I think he's back out there collecting too, but.
So I think I did get a call in the office, and I did. She's like, "Oh, when's your pickup or your drop off?" And I said, "Well, it was last Saturday," and I did warn her that we were having one June, but funds are low, so you better be there in June. I think we need to kind of put that word out. I'm not saying that we are going to shut it down in June, but I think we need to let people know that. This really
that
get
it's funding dependent.
Yeah, it is, and they may lose out if they wait till July or August. Anyway.
Okay, interesting Thompson news.
Yeah.
And does anybody have anything else?
Wow.
Be member comments, number 6. Okay, then I guess hearing none, we'll adjourn this meeting of the Bar Grant Committee until next month.
Good meeting, Janet.
Hopefully it'll be in
Okay.
person.
Good meeting.
Good meeting.
Okay, everybody enjoy the spring, the Mother's Day, the Memorial Day, all that stuff.
Yeah, happy Mother's
The Father's Day.
See you guys.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.